Welcome back once again to No Budget Films. In this video, we will go over my personal top 10 Byzantine landmarks that I personally visited. As a top 10 list, this video will rank the landmark from least to best, with the last one being my personal best. These landmarks featured in this video include those found in Turkey, Greece, and Italy, in which I of course personally have been to. The video too will give a bit of history on the said landmarks, and my personal insights on them. Of course, in order for the landmark to be featured in this video, they have to have been built within the borders of the Byzantine Empire and during the period of the Byzantine Empire from the 4th to 15th centuries. Now, before we begin the video, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, but also check out and support my Patreon site if you can, as this will really help in making me continue producing videos like this. Although small in size and rather plain in its exterior, but in a symmetrical cruciform shape, the 5th century Mausoleum of Galla, Placidia in Ravenna, Italy is very much stunning in its interiors. This structure was constructed between 425 and 450 by the Western Roman Empress Galla Placidia, and although she intended this to be her resting place, she was not buried here. No wonder it took 25 years to complete the structure, as its interior is very stunning. Inside you will see possibly the best ever blue mosaics at the ceiling, made to symbolize the sky, with golden stars, as well as colorful lunettes depicting saints showing physical movement. Now known as the Little Hagia Sophia Mosque, this was originally in the Byzantine era the church of Saints Sergius and Bacchus, and is one of the oldest still functioning religious sites since Byzantine times. The church was originally built between 532 and 536 in the early reign of Emperor Justinian I the Great, as part of the palace grounds of Constantinople. This church was said to be built using the excess materials for the much grander cathedral, being the Hagia Sophia, which we will talk about later, and contrary to popular belief, this church was not built as a model for the grander Hagia Sophia. As a church, it functioned throughout the entire Byzantine era until the fall of Constantinople to the Ottomans in 1453, after which it was converted into a mosque. Although the structure is small, it still has an impressive dome, while also featuring some of the best Byzantine columns, some with monograms of the imperial couple Justinian and Theodora. Located outside Athens, Greece, is the impressive 11th century Byzantine Monastery of Daphni. This church and monastery complex was built over an ancient pagan temple dedicated to the Greek god Apollo, wherein the columns of the former temple still decorate the church. The church of the monastery, built in the 11th century, has the Greek cross plan. As common with Middle Byzantine era churches, a main nave and a large and impressive central dome still very intact today. What I find most impressive about Daphni are its mosaics dating back to the era of the Macedonian dynasty in the 11th century and of the Komnenos dynasty in the 12th century, in which most remain intact, such as that of Christ Pantokrator on the dome's interior. Not to be confused with the Hagia Sophia Cathedral in Constantinople, this Hagia Sophia, found in what is today Iznik, Turkey, which was then the Byzantine city of Nicaea, is for me one of the best examples of Byzantine-era basilica-style architecture, featuring a long nave, flanked by two separate aisles. Although it is now a mosque, this was first built as a church in the 4th century and then rebuilt in the 6th century under Emperor Justinian I the Great. The church is best known for holding the 7th Ecumenical Council in 787 under Empress Eirene of Athens, where the first period of iconoclasm had ended. However, the 6th century structure of the church was damaged by an earthquake in the 11th century, and thus it was rebuilt in its current structure in 1065. In 1331, following the Ottoman conquest of Byzantine Nicaea by Orhan Bey, the church was converted into a mosque, known as the Orhan Mosque, after Nicaea's conqueror. Although now a mosque with rather bare interiors, if you look closely, you can still see some remains of its Byzantine-era frescoes. Now the Zeyrek Mosque. This large brick structure, which consists of 5 domes found in the middle of Istanbul's Fatih district, dates back to 12th century Byzantium and is one of the finest examples of Middle Byzantine era architecture. During the Byzantine era, Wherein it was known as the Pantokrator Monastery, it consisted of a large monastery complex with several churches joined into one, while it too had a hospital and library. The Pantokrator Monastery was built between 1118 and 1124 by Byzantine Emperor John II Komnenos and his wife Empress Irene of Hungary, dedicated to Christ Pantokrator, and following the Empress Irene's death in 1134, John II finished the structure with the addition of a new church attached to it. In 12th century, Pantokrator Monastery featured one of, if not the best hospital in the Byzantine Empire with advanced medical technology, though it also served as a mausoleum for the Komnenos and later Palaiologos dynasties of the Byzantine Empire. During Constantinople's Latin occupation from 1204 to 1261, the monastery fell into the hands of the Venetian clergy and was briefly used as a palace by the last Latin emperor Baldwin II before the Byzantines regained Constantinople in 1261. Following the Ottoman conquest of Constantinople in 1453, the monastery was converted into a mosque, renamed as Molla Zeyrek, a scholar who taught there. Until this day it remains a mosque. However, when visiting it, you can still see a few of its Byzantine remnants, mostly in the column capitals. Located in the countryside region of Boeotia in Greece, above an elevated position known as Mount Helicon, is the stunning 10th century Byzantine monastery of Hosios Loukas. The monastery was founded in the early 10th century by the Greek monk Luke of Status, hence the name of the monastery, and its relics too are found here. This monk Luke, who died in 953, is said to have predicted the Byzantine reconquest of Crete under Emperor Romanos II in 961, 8 years following Luke's death. It was only after Luke's death that the monastery complex was constructed, being the first cross-and-square type church in Greece, while in the 11th century, the main church, or Catholicon, was constructed, which is the earliest existing domed octagon church with 8 piers arranged around the main nave. Beneath the main church is the crypt, featuring vaulted ceilings, and it is here where the relics of the said Luke, who this monastery is dedicated to, can be found. The main church now features some of the best examples of golden mosaic backgrounds with saints depicted on them, dating back to the Middle Byzantine period, as well as several spectacular Byzantine frescoes that remain mostly intact till this day, being the best examples from what was then known as the Macedonian Renaissance. Additionally, the monastery also features what were once the monks' living quarters, which you can still view today to see how Byzantine monks lived. The Kariye Mosque, then known in the Byzantine Empire as Chora Church, is the second best preserved Byzantine landmark in today's Istanbul, only next to the Hagia Sophia. This landmark is found at the northwest of Istanbul's old city, and although its structure today is of the 14th century, being a late Byzantine landmark, it originally dates back to the 6th or 7th centuries with its name Chora, meaning country in Greek, as a reference to it being found in the fields outside the city center. Chora was rebuilt and expanded in the 11th and 12th centuries, though its current structure and decorations date back to the 14th century, where it was rebuilt and expanded by the highly learned but also greatly corrupt minister Theodore Metochites, who served under Emperor Andronikos II Palaiologos and used state funds to construct the monastery. Ironically, when Metochites fell from power when Andronikos II was overthrown by his grandson Andronikos III in 1328, he was exiled to the same monastery he built, where he retired to and died as a monk. The structure of Chora, which dates back to the 14th century, now consists of an outer hall or exonarthex, a narthex with 2 domes, and a main nave where its central dome is located, which is today the prayer room of the mosque, while additionally it also has an extra wing attached to it by Metochites, known as a paraklesion or funerary chapel. Although it became a mosque in 1500 following the Ottoman conquest of Constantinople years earlier, Chora still features some of the best artworks of the late Byzantine period, whether they are the colorful mosaics in the exonarthex and narthex, which are the first to feature structures and human movement and emotion in Byzantine art, or the stunning frescoes on a blue background at the paraklesion. One of my personal best and possibly one of the best preserved in the world for Byzantine era churches is the 6th century Basilica of San Vitale, found in Ravenna, Italy. This church was built in the 6th century and completed in 547 under Bishop Maximian of Ravenna, during the reign of Emperor Justinian I the Great, shortly after Ravenna fell under Byzantine hands after it was captured from the Ostrogoth kingdom. In terms of architecture, the church is laid out in an octagonal shape, supported outside by flying buttresses, while attached to the main church hall is the ambulatory. Architecture aside, the Church of San Vitale is best known for its mosaics. possibly the best Byzantine mosaics ever made, which all, if not mostly, date back to the 6th century. In the ambulatory, almost every space in the walls and ceilings are covered in colorful mosaics either depicting biblical scenes, saints, natural elements, angels, and animals such as peacocks. The most famous mosaics in the church include the one at the apse depicting Christ crowning Saint Vitale, who the church is dedicated to, and on opposite sides of the ambulatory, the mosaics of the Emperor Justinian I and his wife Theodora in their respective courts. The mosaic panel of Justinian on one side shows the emperor himself with a crown and surrounded by his generals Belisarius and Narses, the bishop Maximian, palace guards, and clergymen, while across it is the mosaic panel of Theodora depicting her with court women and eunuchs. The main dome of the church, though, does not feature Byzantine-era art, but late 8th century Baroque frescoes. The formidable land walls of Constantinople, which defended the Byzantine capital numerous times from invasions for a millennium until it was finally breached in 1453 by Ottoman cannons, still stands mostly intact today as the perimeter of Istanbul's old city. The land walls, also known as the Theodosian walls, were built in the early 5th century by the prefect or mayor of Constantinople, Anthemius, and when completed in around 413, it was named after the reigning emperor, the young Theodosius II. It remains highly impressive that the walls were completed in only 8 years, from around 405 during the reign of Theodosius II's father Arcadius, to 413, after which its architect Anthemius disappeared from the historical record. The Theodosian walls, which date back to the early 5th century, stretch for 5.7 kilometers, from south to north, from the Sea of Marmara to the Golden Horn, consist of a moat, outer wall, and inner wall, with a total of 96 defensive towers. Today, when taking a tour of the land walls, you will be surprised to see many of its Byzantine-era structures intact, such as its starting point in the south, known as the Marble Tower, the famous Golden Gate where Byzantine emperors entered through after winning victories, the Ottoman-era Yedikule Fortress, and several gates which served as entrances to the city. At the north end of the walls is the Tekfur Palace, which once belonged to the Imperial Blachernae Palace. Last but not least on this list is perhaps the most famous Byzantine landmark of all, the Hagia Sophia, the most impressive too of all Byzantine landmarks dating back to the 6th century. The Hagia Sophia, or Church of Holy Wisdom itself, was not just the main cathedral of Byzantine Constantinople, but also a symbol of Byzantium's imperial power itself. Its massive and impressive dome with a diameter of 31.7 meters and a height of 55.6 meters from floor level with nothing but pendentives supporting it is truly amazing, and throughout history it has demonstrated both the power and might of the Byzantine Empire and Orthodox Christianity to the rest of the known world. Although the original structure of the Hagia Sophia dates to the 4th century, which was rebuilt in the 5th century after it was destroyed by riots, the one today dates back to the 6th century after the second structure was destroyed by the violent Nika riot of 532. Impressively, the current structure of the Hagia Sophia, built also under Emperor Justinian I the Great, took only 5 years to be completed, from 532 to 537. Although its dome as seen today, built in a semi-spherical form, dates to 562, after the original dome of 537 was destroyed by an earthquake in 558. Throughout Byzantine history, several events took place under the massive dome of the Hagia Sophia, whether they were imperial coronations, political coups, church services, foreign diplomats awed by the greatness of Byzantium, and even attacks such as the Fourth Crusade sack of Constantinople in 1204. During Constantinople's Latin occupation from 1204 to 1261, the Hagia Sophia was the city's main Catholic cathedral until it returned to Orthodox Byzantine hands in 1261. Though since the Ottoman conquest of Constantinople in 1453, the Hagia Sophia stayed as a mosque. And I totally forgot, one place I would add to the honorable mentions in this list is the Hagia Eirene, once a Byzantine church built in the 6th century as well, and still very much intact today. And this is all for now for this top 10 list of my personal best Byzantine landmarks around what was once the Byzantine Empire. These landmarks truly show the greatness of the Byzantine Empire and its lasting legacy, especially the Hagia Sophia, which still impresses us greatly till this day. I hope you enjoyed this top 10 list, and if you have any comments or reactions about it, please say so in the comments section. Of course, please don't forget to further support my channel by liking, commenting, subscribing, and checking out my Patreon site, as your support will really mean a lot, especially in creating more videos like this. Well, before I end the video, I would like to announce that the next video is going to be something very special, as it is for this channel's 10th anniversary. It will include a Q&A on the channel and Byzantine history, in which you can start asking questions now, and a very special announcement. Thank you all for watching.